One of the things today, just when I thought I could not get any more stupid than I have been on some of my other trips, I don't know why the stupidity comes out in me when I'm here in the Cody area. But just when I thought I couldn't do anything more stupid than the bear spray or whatever, I think I might have beat all of that today. It's almost 4:30 in the afternoon. I'm pretty much off the mountain now and almost back onto the asphalt road that goes north out of Cody. And I'm quite comfortable now that I'm in my car and back to safety. When Forrest said beware of mud, boy, he was not kidding. Um, I don't think Cody really had much of that last snow, but this dirt road, which I was on before when it was dry and it was no problem, today it started off, you'll see in the videos, some of it was dry, some of it was a little bit wet. And then I actually got myself where I thought it would be fun to go through some of these mud puddles, sort of cowboying around. But then once I got on the other side of Monument Hill, which I think I have video and you can see this later, um, the road actually narrows, and there were places where it was so wet, but the problem was there was nowhere I could turn around. So I knew I just had to keep going because I had no other choice. So I finally did make it to a place where um, I was actually able to turn around, and I was parked there just to dig all the mud out that was wedged between my wheels and the chassis of the truck. And another guy who is actually working up in this area for the Trail Creek Ranch, which is where I really want to go, but it's private, so I can't. So, anyway, so Craig ended up coming by. We chatted, and then the day really got funky because we got his truck stuck. It almost went over a bank, and he ended up calling the owner of the Trail Creek Ranch, who is some rich billionaire guy who just happens to be here in town, and he owns a military Humvee. And we had cell signal, so Craig was actually able to call this guy, and I waited with Craig. We actually did a lot of walking today while we were just waiting for everything to take place. But anyway, I left Craig up close to where his truck was stuck on the edge on the edge of the road where we almost rolled down over the hillside. And the Humvee, uh, the rich guy driving the Hummer, and a ranch hand were there. So that's when I just continued walking back to my truck, and hopefully they'll be okay. So this is my story. I had driven back Monument Hill Road earlier this year on one of my Cody expeditions when I was doing a recon trip trying to find Blue Springs. I remembered the road as being well taken care of, that I thought even a sedan could make as long as it wasn't snow covered or extremely wet. As I started back, it looked like it was relatively dry, and I thought even if there were some puddles here and there, it would be fun to play. It was a beautiful sunny morning with highs estimated to reach over 50 degrees. I was delighted to be back to this area and excited to know that I thought I would actually get to reach my destination of Blue Springs this time. I couldn't remember exactly how far Monument Hill was from the beginning of the dirt road, but I thought it was about halfway. At the Monument Hill area is when the road changes from the north side of the hill to the south side of the hill. And as I had remembered, it was right after Monument Hill that the road became more narrow and there was a drop off on the left side. As I continued my journey to Blue Spring, the road had more puddles and was wet more often than dry. I don't have video footage of the next hill, but it was so wet that I could not make it up and had to go in reverse back down. I shifted into neutral and threw it into four-wheel drive low. I slowly crept up the hill at a diagonal. The wheels were so covered in mud it was like I was on skis. I tried to steer, but there was no point. This was no longer fun. I was now pretty much terrified. My sphincter was clenched so tight I was surprised I didn't shoot fecal matter out my nose. I finally reached the spot that was wide enough where I could turn around. Oh my God, it was so muddy. I'm in four-wheel drive low, and it's like I'm on runners. That's my front tire. I used my sturdy ice scraper to scrape the mud off the tires and dig it out between the wheel and the chassis. About this time, Craig showed up in his pickup truck. He stopped and we chatted as I dug the mud out between each wheel and the undercarriage. I asked Craig if he knew where Blue Springs was. He did. He said it was about 1.5 miles up over the next hill, and he was going that way and he would give me a ride. He had trouble getting up the hill too, as he was slip sliding around and also was at a diagonal. We finally reached Blue Spring, and then he suggested that we go the next mile or so to the very top because that's where the pretty scenery is. I said okay, and that was our biggest mistake of the day. Well, this is actually a very beautiful place. This is Pat O'Hara Mountain behind the truck and the mud. This is going to be a very interesting day. Thank God I was riding with Craig and not driving my own truck, which I left down the road a couple miles because there was no way in hell I was going to try to do this. Okay, Craig and I just tried to drive up the road in the muck to get to the top. Couldn't make it. Tried to back down, and we basically slid off the road into the edge of the field. This is Craig. Heck.
Hello. This is a place that you all want to visit, but make sure you do it when it's dry.
Forrest warned us about this. He said, beware of mud. We messed up. Here's Craig calling AAA. Ha ha ha.
They like to den down in
While
there.
we waited for help to arrive, Craig talked about the geography, the names of the various places, and his accounts of seeing wolves and grizzlies in these fields.
Of course, it's the middle of the day, and it may be just that they're inactive because it's warm.
Yeah.
But I've seen grizzly bears right down on that whole knob there.
Yep.
I've seen them, eating, stealing prey.
Eventually, we decided we might as well hike back down the hill and check out Blue Springs while we waited for the guys. I even talked Craig into lifting the lid on the whatever that thing was there and touching the water. It was cold. Blue Springs itself per se was not attractive at all, but I loved the area around it and I loved that giant boulder. About the time Craig and I got back to my truck, the rescue Hummer and the two guys showed up. The billionaire driver rolled down his window and peered out. With his thinning, slicked back hair on his bald head and the sneer on his creepy face, I thought of Hannibal Lecter. There were no introductions as Craig jumped into the back seat and they drove off. I continued walking the short distance to my truck, jumped in, and headed home. It had been a pretty good day after all, and hopefully everything turned out okay. I just hoped that Craig made it home with his liver intact.